There was one particular case that stands out to me that I was approaching a gentleman, who was an elderly gentleman who his wife was really pretty supportive of, well, everything that was going on with him. Needless to say, he was at a point where he was approaching the possible need for dialysis, and we went through the best case, worst case model, and I felt like it went pretty well. It was one of the first few times that I've done it. Turns out, about 1 or 2 months later, I happened to be on service in the hospital, and there he was. So he was there with his wife, and he had contracted some kind of a pneumonia or some other type of illness. And needless to say, his kidney function had gotten worse and was really at a point where now the need for dialysis was really being put in question. What amazed me is that they had the piece of paper with the best case, worst case with them, or at least a copy of it. And they took it out when they saw me and they showed it to me. They said, "Hey, you remember we discussed this? It looks like we're getting to that point where we now have to really think about whether or not this is something that we're going to need to do." And I was really pretty shocked that they had it with them. Again, it was one of the earlier times that I've used the best case, worst case, so it was pretty impressive to me. Ultimately, they ended up choosing to move forward with dialysis with a really pretty good understanding of what they were getting into. About a month or two later, they ended up actually stopping dialysis and withdrawing care. They didn't seem surprised by the way things went, and I thought that was the most impressive part about it. So in my mind, that tool really worked well. It seemed to provide a lot of information, a comfort, and somewhat defining their expectations better than I could have without it.
When the options get complex, simplifying it into ways that can make easier decisions can be really valuable, and I think that that's really one of the strengths of this tool.
For many years of my practice, as well as other nephrologists, we've struggled with this goal of keeping people off of dialysis, having them not get sicker. And sometimes that can be really frustrating. We're looking to change this. We're not looking to change this in that people suddenly magically don't need dialysis anymore, but rather we have them going into something they understand, something they're expecting. They may have heard stories from other people, but we're going to tell them the truth, and we're going to tell them about themselves and what we would expect specifically for them. What our real goals are is that people are going into something that they understand. They're informed. Now, our goals are not that people all decide not to do dialysis anymore. That's certainly not it. It's for them to understand what they're getting into. This is what's going to make them being on dialysis more tolerable and more expected. And maybe more importantly is when we look at when they're done with dialysis, in other words, they feel like they can't tolerate this anymore, they know that that was expected, that was coming. Those are still their decisions. That's not something we're telling them that they have to do or they have to stop doing. I think that's really one of the strengths of using the best case, worst case. And that's one of the major ways that it's helped me in my practice. Because as nephrologists, we always seem to be fighting a battle that we really can't win. People do get older. People do get sicker.